is, how many of you you're in a relationship? Raise your hand. How many of you have been in stinky relationships? Raise your hand. I'm raising my hand because I've been in one too. So in stinky relationships, there are interactions that happen, stuff that goes on, things that are happening. How many of you are in a much better relationship now? You're a better person for it, you're a lot easier to live with, you're a lot easier. What happens when someone that you're with in your good relationship behaves or speaks in a way that reminds you of your stinky relationship? What's your reaction? It's visceral, it's immediate. And the person that you now are with is saying, what's going on? I don't understand what's happening here, why you're reacting this way. And you have to explain, this is for me means you will do X, you will be this, you will do that. And if the person cares about you and they care about it, they're gonna think, oh, I got it. Okay, so what do I need to do differently? What is it that we need to know? I need to learn this and I need to find this out. So for me, this was a very clear journey because I'm talking about something that happened to me 28 years ago, where I was in a really stinky relationship. All kind of goofy stuff happened. You know how relationships go. I go into a new relationship, the person I'm still with now, and I had to figure out, who am I? What is it about me that makes me who I am, that I care and that I want to be for this person who cares about me and understands me very well? So for me, that was a journey into what are the unconscious things that I'm carrying from my experience with that stinky person that I now have that could ruin my current relationship. So that's a small example of an unconscious, a learned thing, right? And I think it's really important for us to think about these types of mundane things because we also have things in our environment, things in our culture, things in our media, things that surround us that we have no consciousness about whatsoever, yet they leave an impression. They leave a vision. They leave something inside of us that we take to be the truth. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is finding your way through these things so that you have a sense of what can I do about this. So there's work here to do for everybody, me included, still on a journey doing this. So I'd like to take you through this so you get a sense of this. I like this statement. This is from a group of people that were in Ireland in 1791. And they were very, very much affected by the different organizations that were around, right? There were lodges around, there were brotherhoods around, all this other stuff. And they said, I'd like to have the benevolent conspiracy that cares about everybody. Everybody matters. That's what I'd like to see here. That's what I'd like to have. I consider our lives and the world that we live in to be that benevolent conspiracy. I approach myself and my life in a way that I understand that this is what I'm here for, to be a smarter, better human being. And that's a good place to come from. So what's the learning environment for doing that? Your life, the lives of others. I know we're all busy. I know that we all have a lot of stuff on our minds. We're busy driving towards things. We're busy doing things. I know how that works. Believe me, I understand what that feels like. I understand what that looks like and what it sounds like when you're in the middle of your day and what's happening there. That is not foreign to me whatsoever. So this is so that you can take better care of yourself, is what we're going to be talking about. And by taking better care of yourself, I'd like to think that if you follow some of the things that we talk about today, you'll be taking better care of others as well. So, what sucks about unconscious bias? Give me anything.
It's hard.
It's hard. What else? It crops up when you don't expect it. What? It's invisible. Yeah, it's invisible. You don't know it. What else? Influences thoughts and decisions, even when you don't even plan on it doing so. Yes?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say it makes me do stuff I didn't want to do.
It makes you do things you didn't want to do. What's the number one defense you get from somebody when you point out that they've exhibited something that is a bias? It wasn't my intention.
No, it's not. Literally, no, it's not an unconscious bias. The problem with unconscious bias is they feel good, they reinforce themselves, and going against them is highly uncomfortable at a visceral level.
We're going to talk about that. That's great that you brought that up. Yes?
You hear
which could sound like a criticism, and sometimes that's hard to take.
Yeah, you get defensive, right? You get a sense of, wow, why am I being attacked? Why am I being the one called out on this? What about when you experience this and it's not directed at you, it's directed at somebody else? How do you feel in that situation? Uncomfortable, yeah. I don't know what to do. What can I do? What should I do? So we're going to answer a few of those questions as we go through here. So all of that and even more is what you're going to have a sense about. Here's the thing. We're wired. This is how we are wired. The DNA that we have, the synapses that we fire, the things that we skip over because we learn them as we're growing and we're becoming bigger, better humans, are things that create unconscious bias. Bias is everywhere. We need to accept that. The bias exists whether you're conscious or unconscious or whatever it is, the bias exists. And understanding that that is something that we all have is the key to understanding what can we do when we're encountering it, when we exhibit it, when we see it, when it's pointed out to us. What can we do when that's the case? So we need to accept a certain amount of responsibility. I'm biased. It's like a 12-step meeting. Hi, I'm Don, I'm biased, right? That's the kind of thing we need to think about. You carry biases. They're very beneficial in some ways. They're not all bad. But there are a few constants. And these are my constants. These aren't from any empirical study. These aren't anything else. But these are the constants that I want you to think about. Biases and consciousness. So they're useful sometimes, right? That's great. Also, you know, we know about them sometimes. They're expected sometimes. Somebody said they're unexpected. But they're present all of the time. And your consciousness, well, unless you leave this body, but is your consciousness really gone? There's a lot of argument about that. But your consciousness, it's useful sometimes, right? And it's known and expected, but it is present all the time. We have the constants to do something when we encounter or are exposed to or are witnessing any sense of bias being directed at ourselves or at somebody else. So what rocks about conscious bias? Give me some examples. It does, right? We are able to move quickly. We're able to skip over the details and get to the crux of it, right? What are some of the other rocking things? Yes?
You can actually build connection.
Yeah. You can actually make a connection with unconscious bias that you would not be able to make in the same amount of time if you went through it iteratively. And you'd probably go left or right if you did that. There are a lot of advantages to it. So what we've got is we've got a situation where we have something that we accept that we have. It has pluses and it has minuses, right? There are advantageous things to it and then there are unadvantageous things to it. So you're like, well, what do I do, right? What can I do about this then? What should I be thinking about? Awareness. This is what makes the difference, is the awareness that we have. And your awareness cannot be your awareness of only yourself. Your awareness has to be the awareness of others. The path that you walk is not the path that everyone around you walks. Your neighbor, your coworker, your boss, everybody else has their own point of view. So what should I do, right? What is it that I can do when I experience or I see bias and what happens with that? There are 4 helpful mindsets that you can keep in mind, things that you want to have in your mind so that you can be the person that can do something and make a difference when you encounter unconscious bias. Humility. It's really important. Most of us only exhibit it when we are caught in a lie, when we're caught in something that we're feeling under the rug. All kinds of reasons we can feel it. I want it to be a cultivated thing. When can I turn on my humility? When do I need to adopt the sense of humility, right? When there's something happening that has unconscious bias, I encourage you to have humility there. And you do not have to be the hero, right? You don't have to be the one to fix it. Can we all fix everybody here? No, we can't. However, we can inform everyone and do something about that. And you might not have the answer, right? A lot of us feel, I know what needs to happen here, and you need to do this, and you need to do that. That may be true. That may be the wrong way to go about it. Your humility will help you not try to be that. Empowerment, right? I need to have people that think similar to I do, and I need to know who it is that I can work with, that I can know I've got some backing. I've got somebody to help me. I've got something I can do. Know what your team's strengths are, right? We all build teams around ourselves. When you're talking about unconscious bias, you shouldn't be the one doing that alone. You should be having others with you. Whether it's in the moment or it's after the moment or whatever it is, that's what you want to do. And be willing to let others solve the problems. There may be somebody that's better equipped to take that to the fruition than you. Curiosity, this is my favorite one. If we are curious, no matter what the situation, no matter where we are, if we're curious, we're going to get to an answer. We're going to get to something that will help us come to a conclusion that is very helpful. That is very important for us to understand. Curiosity is one of the values where I work. It's one of the things we interview people for and talk about, and it takes a lot of different forms, but I can't stress enough, if you are curious about why you think what you think, what was said that bothered you, what you saw that made you feel funny, when you get curious about that, you will find out more. And if you exhibit it and somebody comes to you and says, hey, when you did this, here's what happened there, get curious about why would they say that? What was it they're telling you? What is it that they'd like to know? What is it, can they tell you more about what it is you've done? That's really important to do. And think about likely scenarios and trade-offs, right? You don't have to jump into things. You can actually think about, if I say something now, what happens? If I say something later, what happens? What's the reaction of the person I'm talking to, right? You have lots of tools available to you. Curiosity is a really good one. And then adaptability. How many people here are adaptable? Raise your hand. How many people have to be adaptable or they will lose their minds? There is a natural tendency to adaptability. However, my version of adaptability and what I can adapt to is predicated on who I am, where I've come from, and how I'm wired. And that's very different than yours, very different than yours, very different than yours. Everybody's sense of adaptability, they tailor it to what they need and what they have. I think that when we're talking about unconscious bias, adaptability is knowing when to pivot and to do it boldly. That's the big one. We are always afraid to be bold. And I can't stress enough, if you are honest with yourself, if you're curious, if you have the adaptability to take that step that you normally don't take, you'll be successful. Even if you're not successful in that moment, you're forwarding something that's better. So, these are some of the mindsets that you can have. These are some of the things that you can do. They're not perfect. They're not all employable to every situation you have. But I'm telling you, no matter what side of the equation of unconscious bias you're on, if you exhibit and internalize these things and show them, you're going to come out being a smarter, better human being. Thank you.